Welcome to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast. We have a very special guest that's been a long time coming. And we never chatted beforehand about how I should address you. So I'm going to go through my options I have. We have the Right Reverend, the Lord Bishop of Newcastle. We have Helen-Ann Hartley, or we have the Bish. How should I refer to you?
Oh, well, please call me Helen-Ann, John.
Okay, thank you.
Um, a lot of people also call me HA for short because my name plus title, if you put the full thing in, could be something of a mouthful. But Helen-Ann is absolutely fine as long as you get both in. I'm very fussy
Yes,
about that.
no
Two
problem.
Scottish, two Scottish great grandmothers, so they both need a mention.
Very important. Thank you very much, Helen-Ann. So, welcome to the podcast, Helen-Ann. And what
Thank
we
you.
always ask our guests to do is to do a wee bit of an introduction about themselves and speak about how they got into running. Let's do that first. Over to you,
Okay.
Helen-Ann. Who are you?
So, Helen-Ann is my name, and I am the Bishop of Newcastle, which means that I have responsibility for one of the 42 dioceses in England, the Church of England, and I've been in this role for just over 2 years. So it's I guess, a senior leadership role in the Church of England. And I grew up in the Northeast, so it's kind of like being at home in this role. It's a really difficult job to describe in a nutshell, so I might just park that for a minute. But I'm one of your classic people who really did not like running as a child growing up. School PE was really not my thing. In fact, sports generally, I think I quite enjoyed tennis, but I was never into running. And my running journey really only started probably about 7 years ago. Um, we had returned to England from living in New Zealand for 6 years, and I'd become Bishop of Ripon in North Yorkshire. And I knew that there was a park run in Fountains Abbey, and I thought, oh, wouldn't that be a cool thing to do? But I don't run, so I better have a go at couch to 5K. So that's that's how it started for me back in end of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Okay, thank you very much. And so from Park Run to what distance? It's 2025. Where are you now?
So at the moment, kind of in terms of organized race events, I'm up to half marathon.
Mm,
So I've done the Edinburgh half, I've done the Great North Run twice, and that's right now, that's where I'm at. But I'm on the journey to increase the distance.
okay. And I'm intrigued by the bishop part of your life.
Yeah,
Okay. Which is only right. Um,
yeah, of course.
and you mentioned, just to set a bit of context, 42
Mm.
dioceses. So
Mhm.
geographically describe that from up, down, and west to east.
So my diocese, basically, if you think of the northeast of England, you think of the city of Newcastle, River Tyne. So everything from the river up north, right up to Berwick, so right up to the border with Scotland, over Northumberland. Alston, actually, interestingly, is in the diocese, even though that has a Cumbria postcode. So Alston's in my diocese. And then Hexham, Hadrian's Wall, and along. So geographically, it's kind of that sort of proper northeast chunk of
Mm.
England.
You mentioned a few places there. I got a lesson recently in how to pronounce Alston
Oh
because I was
yeah,
calling it Alston.
oh yeah,
And Jodie
yeah.
Laird was up visiting with Jimmy, her husband, up visiting near me. And I went to tea, and Jodie gave me a lesson in how to pronounce Alston, as if there's a W or as if it starts with an O. But
Yeah,
so,
Alston. Yeah, I
but
can.
place names. But that's quite a big spread. And
Yeah.
quite recently as well, you mentioned Hadrian's Wall. And that's been in the news recently too, because of the spine race, but also because of Sycamore Gap.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So that's all in your
Yeah,
patch.
that's all in my patch. And I mean, on that, I was the day after the tree was felled, I went up to the site to really see the folk at the National Park Centre, the Sill, and the Twice Brewed pub, you know, because they were all in a state of shock. And a ranger took me out to see it, and it's a truly, it still kind of it still gives me the shivers when I think about it, because it was such a devastating thing, still is in many ways, and of course back in the news most recently. So yeah, it's an extraordinary patch of land, that I think the sort of juxtaposition of that site, the wall, the Pennine Way, the Hadrian's Wall path, you've kind of got a lot of stuff going on in that place. So it's a deeply spiritual place for many people.
Yeah. And I noticed on the news as well that from the stump, green shoots are growing. You can't stop nature,
No, you can't.
So
No, that's right. Amazing. Exactly. There's a lesson in that, isn't there?
definitely. But we'll get too deep just now. Maybe we'll go
No.
deeper later. But 42 dioceses. So does that, for me and for people listening in, does that mean that means more than 42 churches, doesn't it? How many churches are we talking about?
Yeah, so like churches in my diocese, we have about 170 like buildings. And we've got that they're all kind of divided into sort of parishes, but so, and it covers all of that. So there are churches dotted all over that area. And so I've got responsibility basically for the people and the clergy of those church communities. We've got church schools, we've got chaplaincies, and kind of because of the Church of England's, nature, in a sense, the bishop has oversight of all sorts of things that happen in that region. I've kind of got a public facing aspect to my role. And I also have one of the seats of the bishops who sit in the House of Lords. So I've kind of got a sort of political dimension to the role as well. So it's a really wide ranging role of oversight, encouragement, and vision. Yeah.
We're trying not to go political, but I'm happy to go anywhere. So that's a lot of churches, a lot of places, so it means even more that you're able to give us a bit of your time, because that's a lot of demand on your time, I'm assuming, to have all these places.
Yeah, my diary is famously complex. So I think and I think that's one of the interesting things about running, because that's why, as I guess my role has got more full on and intense, actually running for me has become a really, really important part of my life, in terms of it's something I choose to do and commit to, and it's not something that's diarised for me. It's kind of something that feeds me both physically, but also it's really good for clearing my mind. So often you go out for a run and you come back feeling pretty exhausted, but actually that you've benefited from it.
Anybody that's doubting about going for that run, just listen to that and go and do it. Thank you. We'll come back to running, but one more directly question about being a bishop.
Yeah.
How do you become a bishop?
So the kind of, well, I thought a bit about this. I was thinking, my goodness, how do I explain to somebody who maybe knows nothing about this job that I do? How do you become? So in a as clear a way as I can describe it, you have to be ordained, as it were, in the Church of England as a deacon and a priest, and you get put on a list basically of people who could become a bishop, and you get invited into a process. So there was a vacancy in Newcastle. I got invited into the process, got put on a long list, lots of paperwork. You then got put on a short list, more paperwork. You then go for an interview with a panel of 18 people. You then get offered the role. It's approved by the Prime Minister. Then it's approved by the King. Then it's announced. Then you have to go through an interesting, slightly antiquated legal process, which was in York Minster. And then you pay homage to the king, and then you get installed and you start the job as a bishop. So that's a kind of
Wow.
one bit to the next process. So it's a very long process of discernment. And yeah, here I am.
Thankfully, here you are. Yeah.
Indeed.
So, were you always going to have a religious life?
So yeah, I suppose. I mean, I grew up in a family of faith. My dad actually was a minister in the Church of Scotland in the Borders, in a wee place called Coldingham with St Abbs. And so I grew up in a Christian household. And I think the great thing about my parents is that they always taught me to be curious and ask questions. So it was never something that was like forced on me. So, I kind of grew into it. So I guess you could say that, some children of ministers get put off religion for life. And I kind of understand that others, go on a journey. And so I guess I have gone on a journey, and this is where I've ended up. So yeah, you could say yes is the answer to that, but not guaranteed.
Okay. And one final question on the church. Maybe. Where do you go next in the church?
So, well, I could be a Bishop of Newcastle. I'd be very happy to be Bishop of Newcastle until I retire. Bishops have to retire when you're 70. So there are other options. You could move to another episcopal role. Um, but I feel very much, I think I can use this language, called to be bishop of this diocese in this time. And I love the Northeast, and I think I'd be really happy to stay here.
Your face just lit up as you were speaking about that,
Yes.
Helen-Ann. So thank you
Yeah.
very much. We'll leave that there. Thank you.
Okay.
I think only one of the questions was on the question set that I sent you, so you've done very
Brilliant.
well. You've done very well. You've touched on this a wee bit with one of your answers there, but how do you believe that running contributes to your well-being, but also your spiritual health?
Mm. I think a lot of that is tied up in. So I tend to run not with music or anything like that. Occasionally I do. Occasionally, Young Hearts Run Free podcast. Need to get a plug in there. But I think what I find about running is that it's doing something at a different pace. So it's not, you have to really tune in and attend to how you are physically and listen to your body. And then you also end up listening to the terrain that you're on, to nature that surrounds you, or traffic or whatever. And I think for me, it's the one time where you're not bothered by email, messages, the phone, any other kind of demands. It's very much something that I choose to do, and in it, I feel that challenge. I don't necessarily do. I do enjoy running, but I enjoy it because I know it's something that's sometimes can be really tough and challenging. And I think that for me, that's where the growth happens. And I can feel a sense of achievement that I've got around a particular course, or I've kind of gone further than I thought I might be able to. So I think for me, there's a lot about endurance, and spiritual growth in that. And so that's why I think running for me has become so significant.
And I think in life we get tested, we get our boundaries pushed, and there's things to overcome and challenges that we face, and
Yeah,
building up resilience and fortitude. So yeah, I'm totally with that.
absolutely.
Totally with that.
Absolutely.
Do you have a running coach?
I don't have, well, at the moment, I'm using Runner, the app Runner, to help me train for a marathon that I'm hoping to do, which we can talk about in a bit. And I'm finding that really helpful, actually. And so I haven't got a coach currently, but I've got one or two people that have offered to kind of jump on board and give me some advice and tips if I need it. So I think at the moment I'm going to stick with the training plan that I'm on and see how it goes. Yeah.
How is it going?
It's going all right, actually. I think I've been pleasantly surprised. Like, and I think what's really good about it is that for ages I had a bit of a block. Like I'd get to 5K, or I'd sort of build 5K up in my mind as this huge thing, and I actually found it weirdly hard to get confidently beyond that, even though I've done quite a few 10K runs. There was something about the 5K. So I thought actually the thing with the Runner app is that it's now got me at a 10 to 12K is the standard kind of short run. Whereas when I started running, the idea of running even 10K was just completely bonkers. Why goodness, that's so long. So I think the good thing about the app is that it's sort of, because it gives you different types of run. There's easy runs, there's conversational pace, there's different tempo runs, and I find the kind of gentle challenge, or rather the insistent challenge of the voice in my headphones saying speed up or or slow down, or the worst one is sliding, which means, your pace is slipping, get back on it. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I'm running up a hill right now. It's boiling hot. Cut me some slack. But
And
it's good.
is this one of these apps that you can choose who speaks to you?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So there's a whole list of different options. I can't remember. I've got a female voice at the moment because the male voice which was the default one was quite strict. So I thought I needed somebody who was a bit more pastoral. But there may come a time where I need to switch back to
Yeah,
the
to get that authoritarian
get
thing
that
going on.
authority back, probably. Yeah.
And you mentioned your interest was started with the Fountains Abbey Park Run. Was
Mm.
that it to start with? Or do a 5K, get Park Run fit? Was that it? And now you've just kept going?
Yeah, basically, I kind of, that was back in 2019. So I started doing park run at Fountains Abbey, which was my local park run at that point. Um, and then about a year after that, I think I ended up joining my local running club, Rip and Runners. Shout out for Rip and Runners,
Yeah.
who actually I'm still a member of that club. So I'm like the Rip and Runner at large. Because I made such great friends. And the thing, I was the sort of person that, like, if you saw a running club, I thought, oh, that's not for me. First of all, I think running,
Mm.
that's not for me. Running club, no, that's not for me, because that's all for like very, very serious kind of racing runners, and that's not me. But actually, I discovered that Rip and Runners was the most, as many running clubs are, completely open, welcoming, inclusive space. Really, and people, really up for encouraging you and helping you develop. And so I made some really, really good friends. And I think for me, that was really important because it was important to me to be part of a community where I could just be Helen-Ann. I wasn't kind of, I mean, I
Yeah.
think they quite like the idea of the bishop being one of them, but they very much treated me as an absolute, I was just Helen-Ann. And that's what I find really brilliant about the running communities, that it's a real kind of leveler for me. And it's a place where I can feel me truly.
Brilliant. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And I just wonder if the Rip and Runners change the way they speak to each other when Helen-Ann approaches Bishop. And
Mm.
is there are there members of the congregation who will give you running tips?
Yeah, I've just identified quite a few, like there's a few running clergy in the diocese actually, which is good. And actually when I did my first Great North Run a couple of years ago, there were a few members of clergy and diocesan staff who were doing it as well. So there was a bit of a sort of a posse of us um, doing the Great North Run, which was really good. So we had these purple running tops made with our
Ah,
names on the back, and like Diocese of Newcastle, and I had on the back of my shirt Bishop Helen-Ann. And actually, when I wore that shirt a couple of weeks ago to do the Great North 10K, I was kind of pegging it up the central motorway, and this lady comes behind me and she says, "Are you really a bishop?" I was like, "Yes," because I happened to be running near three ladies dressed up as nuns, and obviously they weren't actual nuns; they were nuns on the run doing the run, and then there was me. And so I said, "Yeah, I'm a bishop." And the person shouted out, "Legit." And we all kind of chorused, "Amen," like that. And that was quite a moment. So I actually find running with the name on the back, people are like, oh, go for it.
Yeah.
Encouraging.
But it also, I think, you mentioned a posse of apostles running.
Yes. Yeah.
But but it normalizes running as well. Running's for
Yeah.
everybody, you know?
Absolutely. Totally.
So, yeah, I love that.
Totally.
And so that's how running's good for your well-being. What about your faith? Are there parallels between running and your faith?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, it's something, some of it is in that kind of spiritual endurance, that challenge, that testing, that kind of running the race. So I'm always struck by one of the authors of a lot of the letters in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul. He uses quite a lot of imagery of athletics, actually, because he would have been writing to communities like in Corinth, for example, who had not the Olympic Games, but the Isthmian Games. So there was a kind of athletic in ancient times, athletic sort of hinterland that Paul spoke into, so that he'd sometimes use the imagery of, running to compete, and it's not about the winning. It's sort of striving to do the best and really pushing yourself. So I've been quite taken by that way in which certainly in those writings, there's a real sense of the physicality and the testing and the endurance. And given that those letters are important in the landscape of faith that I occupy, I often find myself going to some of those images and thinking, actually, yeah, there's something timeless about here, and there's something deeply human, that shared experience, which for me is expressed in my role, which has an explicit faith dimension to it, but is very much a kind of shared endeavor with all of humanity, and there's something really powerful in that.
Definitely. And sometimes it's the wee moments that just stop us in our tracks, isn't it? And you just
Definitely. Mm.
do you am I using the correct term? Deliver a sermon. Do you
Hmm.
deliver? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, lots.
Um,
Yeah,
do you ever bring running into that or running related things into that?
I do quite a lot actually. I do, and it might be a bit early to get into this, but there was I a couple of years ago. Well, it was after the Barclays when Jasmin Paris won, and it was just before Easter, actually, 2024. So I think it was the Friday night
Yeah,
our
it
time when
was.
she
Yeah.
finished. And I happened to be in Grasmere because I was taking part in the Grasmere Trail 10K race the next day. And um, so it was right before the week that runs up to Easter. Um, and obviously, absolutely extraordinary achievement. And I knew then that the following Thursday, I had to deliver quite an important sermon. So every year during Holy Week, all the clergy gather in the cathedral, and the bishop kind of preaches this sort of motivational sermon to all the clergy. And so I thought I've got to tell the story of the Barclays um, and Jasmin's achievement. But what really struck me about it was the way in which it wasn't about who's the greatest. There's a story in the New Testament about the disciples having an argument about who's the best. Um, because I was really struck by the moment when Jared Campbell, asked Jasmin,
Mm,
which way round do you want to go? And I thought that's an extraordinary moment, actually, to sort of almost step back and let her um, take that opportunity for achievement. And so I preached that sermon, and I put a post on social media, and tagged in all these people like Jasmin Paris, John Kelly, Random Forest Runner, Damien Hall, Will Robertson, who's the media guy at the Spine, Will Baldley Go, as he's known.
hmm
And crucially, I included the legend that is Keith Dunn, because that's how we knew about everything that was going on in Barclays. And so I tagged Keith in. And then a few hours later, a colleague kind of messaged me and said, "Hey, do you know Keith Dunn has quoted your tweet?" And I was like, "What?" And
Mm.
and he had, and he just said, like, "This is very cool." And I think our diocesan social media stats kind of went through the roof at that point, because suddenly all these random people were like, engaging. And since then, Keith and I have become friends, which is pretty amazing. So
Awesome.
yes, so that's a very long answer to your question, but yes, I do often talk about running in my sermons and addresses.
Brilliant. I love that. And just for clarity, it's never too early to speak about Jasmin Paris. Never
Good.
ever. I've got to go. I probably do this all the time, but I've got to go off on a small tangent.
Yeah.
That same moment when you were doing the Grasmere
Yeah.
10K, I was in the Albert Halls in Stirling with Stephen at Beluga Lagoon, a Beluga Lagoon concert. And I seen Beluga Lagoon were playing one of my favourite songs, Rainbows, by them.
Amazing.
And the tweet came through from Keith Dunn. We thought it wasn't coming.
Yeah, no, exactly. I remember
And
that. Yeah.
it came through, and Stephen snapped. I've got a brilliant photograph. I'm standing like that with my
Oh,
phone.
brilliant.
And the
Amazing.
band are playing. Absolutely phenomenal.
Amazing.
It's also, this wasn't planned, dear listeners, people listening in. We very often ask for somebody that our guest doesn't know about to send a secret question. This week's secret question comes from Damien Hall. I contacted Damien Hall
Oh my
and
goodness.
said, if you could ask the Bishop of Newcastle one question, what would it be?
Oh,
Damien's
no.
question is, just to clarify, is it down to her that Keith Dunn supports Newcastle United? Damien Hall's a big Arsenal fan. Massive
Oh,
Arsenal fan. So has that come about because of that friendship?
I don't know is the answer. I honestly don't know, because I did notice like Keith tends to watch a lot of Premier League football, and then there was a photo of him with a Newcastle scarf at the Barclays this year, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I think it might be. I need to ask. I've not asked Keith. Maybe I need to, on behalf of Damien, ask Keith what's. But yeah, he's definitely an NUFC fan, which gets 2 thumbs up from me. So that's really good to know that Damien supports Arsenal. Actually, that's handy. I'll
Well,
park that fact.
and
Good
I've got
question.
I've got to say that as it was top and tailed with ha-has, his question. So it's
Yeah,
done with a good laugh as well. But
brilliant.
Keith Dunn, yeah, everybody hangs on Keith's words and his tweets when the Barclays happened. It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
And yeah, what Jasmin done was, I think when we spoke to Jasmin long after, a wee while after it, because the whole world wanted to speak to Jasmin. Eventually she come back and spoke to us. And it wasn't just inspirational well, it was for women. It was for women.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
for everybody, for human beings, it was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So
Totally.
and people will be listening in going, John, calm down about Jasmin Paris. But I never will, because I think it's brilliant. From one quite phenomenal race, the Barkley Marathon, to another one a bit closer to home and on your diocese, the spine race. You get involved, you volunteer. How did that come about?
Yeah. I think I first knew about the spine race when I became Bishop of Newcastle, and I think just on social media, I think it must have been maybe the winter race 2023. So that would be when I was sort of starting. And there was one of the spine race YouTube videos, the end of day kind of recap I watched, and there was this extraordinary clip of participants in the spine race in the church, and I was like, what, which church are they in? Because they were like sleeping, and it was kind of a bit of a hub. And obviously I discovered it was St. Francis Church in Burness, which is one of the churches in the diocese. And so I thought, what is this spine race? And that's really what drew me in, was just that clip of that engagement. And I was like, wow, that's amazing that the church is used. And that was my sort of entry into the extraordinary world of the spine race, which has become something that's really significant to me personally, as well as in my role.
Well, I think that church in Burness, I'm getting a bit emotional thinking about that, because it's very close to the end of the spine race, and it is a refuge for people.
Yeah.
Both physically for shelter, but maybe spiritually as well. Almost that they need something to get them to the finish, regardless of if it's winter or summertime. And just recently, Julie McGill spoke brilliantly about that
Yeah.
church. Well, it's actually like she wasn't leaving Burness till she got to the church. She got lost a wee
I
bit,
heard that.
but
Amazing.
she made sure she was going there. And also, it's one of our favourite pictures ever when Mel Sykes slept on the altar
That's
in that
right. Yeah.
church.
I have that.
Phenomenal.
I have that photo up in Bishop's House. So when people come into Bishop's House, um, they see three photos, two of which were taken by Tom, I think it is, who runs the Ultra I Am Possible, who took the photo. There's that one. There's the one of the Pennine Warrior, and then there's a photo that I took of the finish line. But that one of Mel is in the centre of that, and it's such an extraordinary image. I absolutely love it. And
Yeah.
everybody who comes into Bishop's House, I take them to that photo and say, "This is the story," and it's just what a gift. It's extraordinary.
And I think Tom, he very kindly donated some of his prints, and they've raised money for charity as well.
Yeah,
So
that's nice.
yeah,
Great.
again, it's that running community doing something
Yeah,
special, isn't it?
yeah,
And
definitely.
the spine race itself, 268 miles. You ever tempted yourself?
Not well. Um, I mean, look, it's I don't know how to answer that. Yes is the answer. It's partly, of course. Um, but and I am actually on the roster for the Northern Sprint next summer because I thought when I knew about the sprint races, I was like, oh, what a shame they don't do a Northern one. If they did a Northern one, then I might actually begin to think maybe there's a way in which I could contemplate going on that adventure. And then there is a Northern, and the rate Phil Heyday Brown, who's the race director, and the brilliant team, they've kind of been sort of, what about it? What? And so this year, when I went up to Kirk to the finish, pretty much within a minute of arriving on the Wednesday, they were like, "So, you're going to do it?" And I didn't take any persuading, and I still kind of think, Helen-Ann, what have you done? But hey, I think for me to contemplate doing something like that, there's got to be like, what is your why? And for me, the why is what an extraordinary way to see a part of the diocese of which I
Your
have
face again is lighting up.
my responsibility. And you kind of, I remember, I think it was Damien, I think this was a Damien Hall phrase, or I think it's Damien, or no, it's Jack Scott actually. Damien's got loads of wise phrases. I could quote him, but and I probably will before this podcast is out. But Jack Scott, I think, said, run the mile you're in. And I think you kind of, for me, just that the contemplation of what that will, and I don't underestimate at all the challenge, but yeah, there we go.
How is that? Is this the one that Damien was trialing this
Yes.
year? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So they actually ran the first proper Northern Sprint in January, in the summer.
Yeah.
I think Damien trialed it in Jan, and then the first summer Northern Sprint was this June, just gone.
What's the distance?
It's 43 miles.
43 miles.
So it's the Bellingham up to Kirk bit, including the Cheviot. So you kind of deviate off the route a bit, do the Cheviot, and then you come in through the high road, as it were, into Kirk rather than the low road.
So you've got 11 months-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
To get ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
43 miles. The sermon after that one's going to be brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You're too right. I know. I think, yeah, everything after that is going to be, yeah, wow. But, I think, honestly, the spine community, and this is where the running community bit is really important. Like, I went up to the finish line in January this year. I tend to go up on the Wednesday, like midweek. And this January, I'd had a really tricky end to last year. I was, in terms of the institution of the church, I was kind of found myself in the middle of quite an extraordinary period of scrutiny and media stuff, and it was really tough going. And I got to the start of January, and I got really bad flu, and I just, I was my body mentally and physically was just, I was jammed. And so the only thing I did in January was I thought I've got to go up to the spine finish line. I've got to go. So I drove up to the finish line. And honestly, I don't think the spine organisers know fully how significant their welcome and their encouragement of me at that time was. And it was so moving how they just kind of scoop me up, and you get your brew and you just have a natter, and they really help put me back together. And I think that's
Mm.
why for me running, it's almost like it's ministering to me. I in my role spend a lot of time pastorally attending to other people. What that community, particularly the spine community, and many of my running friends have given to me is a sort of a real sense of foundation and support and encouragement. And I find that such a powerful tale of humanity. How can you not be inspired by that?
You've got a lovely way with words. You really do. Thank you very much for that. That's really powerful. And fair play to the spine team
Yeah,
and community for doing that. And it's almost like it just happens just when you need it, isn't it?
totally.
It just
Exactly.
it's not planned. It's just human
No,
beings
that's
being
right.
human beings.
That's
Brilliant.
right. At their best.
I'm also going to little reveal, and I might whisper this and speak quickly, and I'll move on. I'm also going to do a bit of the spine next summer. I'm going to do the Challenger South, but we'll move on.
Amazing. Oh, wow.
We'll move on from that.
So what's your why for doing that one then, John? If I can I ask you that?
Listening to too many people who've done it and had a brilliant time, but
Wow.
also I've never set myself a challenge. I'm moving as far as that. It's 108 miles. I've
Yeah,
never
wow.
done that. And I've also had a couple of recent races, I don't race anybody except myself, runs that have not went the way I wanted. And I just feel I want to make it happen, So
Brilliant. Amazing.
what's this space?
Wow.
What's both our spaces? Brilliant.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, yeah. You might find me in your church looking for something.
When you come, yeah, I just come up to
Well,
Burness.
not Burness. I'm talking about your church. Listen to your sermon when we get done.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah. What about, okay, so the spine? Maybe we'll follow that one up next summertime. Maybe we can
Yeah,
come back together and have a
but
chat.
yeah,
But
sure.
what about other races or run events? You've mentioned the Great North Run a couple of times. Tell us about your favourite or your special running events, Helen-Ann.
Oh, I so I think in many ways the Great North Run is such an event for the region. Like it's probably not the most scenic route running up the Felling bypass sort of thing on a dual carriageway, but like it's the extraordinary it's the people that come out and cheer along the side of the road. It's the people that plug hoses into their kitchen taps and then wind them out along the path onto runners. So there's 60,000 people, so it's an extraordinary event for the region. So I think that will always have a special place in my heart. I've had the fortune of having some really good conversations with Sir Brendan Foster, who founded the run, and he's given me some really good advice about running. Basically, just start by saying you can. Simple stuff like you can. If you're going to do a run, you can do it. That sort of positive mindset. Um, so that in terms of running thus far, I really enjoy that run. Probably the Great North 10K actually is the one that I've just did a couple of weeks ago. It's a 10K, but again it's a great route. You cross the Tyne Bridge, you're under the motorway with people shouting "Oggy, Oggy, Oggy," "Oi, oi, oi." It's all that kind of stuff. But there's something in the spirit of all sorts of people doing these things. So I think probably those two.
Okay.
But what am I saying? I like Grasmere is a brilliant location as well, and I love running in the Lake District, up and down the fells. So that's also really cool.
That brings me into, before I do this actually, younger listeners who are listening in and saying, who did Helen-Ann say? Brendan Foster, a trailblazer of the sport. I'm old enough.
Legend, yeah.
I'm old enough to remember Brendan Foster, Steve Ovett, Seb Coe, Steve Cram, watching these people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you can get it on YouTube, young folks, if you want to go and check it out. And it's riveting stuff, absolutely riveting stuff. You mentioned there Great North Run, then you mentioned fell racing, tarmac or trail. Do you have a preference?
Probably trail, actually. All that said, I think I really enjoy the challenge of navigating the terrain on a trail. I think it tests you in a different way. I did a brilliant course in April, called Into the Hills Running. It's a Jenny Bushell who runs this brilliant company who does these courses for running. I took part in a 2-day course that she led around Grasmere, actually. And we went around Lochrig Fell, and then we went up it on the second day. And I think there's something about when you navigate up to the top and then suddenly you've got this other landscape to explore up a height. So I really enjoy the sort of texture of trail running. Actually, probably that's my preferred terrain.
And when you're doing that with Jenny, is this map and compass?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, totally, exactly. So the really interesting thing about that was like, here's the map, here's the compass, where are we? And it's like, oh, okay, you actually have to reconnect with those really latent skills of map reading that, again, you kind of did in school geography lessons that you've kind of mostly forgotten. But how good to rediscover those skills, because it really makes you look at the detail, the granularity of a landscape and how you find your way.
And we can have some of us, or people will have watches that can navigate on a watch, but what if your watch stops?
Exactly. That's right.
And I know a lot of these courses, like going down to the Lakeland 50-100, not this week, but next week, just to not running, thankfully. But a lot of them, you've got to have a compass, and you get a map given to you. But it's not hard, really, with some basic skills to be able to navigate. And it gives you so much confidence when you can do that, So, and I know certainly, probably similar to the one that Jenny does, there's a group in Scotland called Girls on Hills. Nikki Spinks is part of that group as well.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, amazing.
And they take people out on adventures for a weekend, and they learn these navigational skills as well, and just to keep themselves safe, So brilliant. So definitely, that's brilliant. What's your longest fell race?
Oh, well, actually, what's my longest fell race? So I've really just done sort of 10Ks in that distance, like Grasmere, Kielder Forest, Winlatter Forest, which was, oh my goodness, there's a lot of incline in there, which is near Keswick. I'm hoping I've entered to do one of the Cheviot Challenge races at the end of August. I think I've opted to do what they're calling the fun run, which is
careful with that.
I know, exactly. It's like, really? So I've kind of yet to do a really, really long, but I've ran myself in the Lake District, sort of around about the 20K distance, I suppose.
Two things I've got to mention. Stephen influenced. First one is Stephen's wife went to university in Newcastle, and she's been down at the Great North Run a number of times.
Oh, brilliant!
I think her and her pals have had a reunion. And they've done that a number of times. And then also talking about fells and tarmac, your preferred running shoe. What's your preferred running shoe?
So if I'm out on like mostly running, at the moment I'm using on cloud surfers.
You're looking like your feet, like you've got them on just now. Do you have them on just now?
No, I don't have them on just now.
Right, okay.
They're really comfortable, actually. I've enjoyed running on those. If if I'm doing the trail stuff, I've got a pair of N normal trail shoes that I've been using, and actually they work really well. So I'll be giving them a bit more use when I'm in the Lake District on holiday next month. So yeah.
Damien Hall will be very pleased that you mentioned
Yes.
normal.
Yeah, of course.
He's getting
Absolutely.
he's been mentioned more than the time we spoke with him, I
Yes,
think,
the
actually.
bog botherer. Well, I'm the God botherer, you see, and he's the bog botherer. So you
Yeah,
put us together, and you've got a good combo.
one of my favorite social media posts of the year, that one. I loved that. I loved that. When you're doing a race, 5K, 10K, it doesn't regardless. And
Mm.
when you're looking forward to the spine sprint next year, there's going to be low points in there. How do you stay motivated during the tough parts, Helen-Ann?
Yeah. I think I read a book quite early on in my running by Matt Wyman. Don't know if you've come across him, and it's one of the Vertebrate Publishing House books, and it's called Failure is an Option. And it's a really good book because he actually lays out basically that's what the title is, and that's what he explores, the fact that you sometimes you set out to do a run and it doesn't work out how you planned, and you may have actually planned and trained long and hard for it, and it doesn't land in the way that you thought it would, and actually that's okay. I think so much of our lives are dominated by perfection and by people getting things right all the time that we forget that actually not finishing something is not failing. It's just it's part of the journey of growth, and I think it's embracing that and being okay with that. That if I'm out for a run and I'm just not feeling it, or it's just not, it's hotter than I'd planned, and I've ran out of water or jelly babies or whatever, and I'm in a bit of a rut. Actually, it's okay to stop, or it's okay to just walk a bit. You don't have to. I'm doing it for me, and yes, it's going to be challenging, but if I'm finding it really too hard, it's okay to stop. You don't, nobody's gonna think why you haven't finished that, or you haven't done it. Actually, to embrace failure as a positive thing is is part of what it is to be human. So yeah, I mean it's tough, isn't it? But I did find a lot of wisdom in his thinking and his narrating some of the times when he's entered particularly ultra races and it hasn't gone to plan. And we know that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It happens more often than not, probably, that we get
Yeah,
hit,
for
we
sure.
get, and it's about that problem solving, that race management, what's going on, and
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've never heard of that book. I heard the Vertebrate. We've got a
Yeah,
lot of great stuff.
they do. Yeah.
Um,
So Failure is an Option by Matt Wyman. I highly recommend.
I can hear a number of coaches in my brain, in my head just now going, no, it's not. So, but you know
Yes, it
what?
is.
It's all about perspective.
It is.
It's all about everybody.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
um, okay, somebody that's never ran and they've happened across this podcast and they're listening to the Bishop of Newcastle speaking to Young Hearts Run Free. What
Mhm.
advice would you give to them if they're thinking about starting out or running or considering taking on a
Mhm.
10K or a half marathon? What advice would you give them?
I think definitely start with something like Couch to 5K, because I think you kind of, I mean, in one sense, just put on a pair of trainers and just go for a trot up and down the drive. It'll probably be a shock to your body, as I remember it was for me the first time I ran up our lane. I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? Um, but small steps. Just start one foot in front of the other, repeat, and take it slow. And you'll discover things about yourself that you never knew possible or that you had. So if I can do it, I kind of say to people, look, if I can contemplate doing any run, let alone one of the spine races, um, anybody you can do anything. Just you need to train, you need to prepare, you need to commit to doing it, but you will discover a lifetime of adventure if you give it a go.
I love how your face lights up. See, that's the third time I've said that. When you get to that
Give
joyous
it a
part,
go.
yeah, give it a go, most definitely. I was I was the same. I have what I call my Rocky Hill. That
Yeah.
was the first time I tried to run up there. Actually, I was on a bike the first time. I had to go off and push it,
Uh,
but I made myself a commitment that I was going to run up that hill.
mm,
And when I was doing it, I played that Rocky theme tune in my head,
brilliant.
and eventually I got to the top. What a feeling! What a
Brilliant.
feeling! It was brilliant. So, yeah, get your shoes on, get
Yeah,
started. Absolutely
exactly.
brilliant. You mentioned about the Rip and Runners,
Hmm.
but do you prefer to run on your own or with company?
Lately, I've tended to run on my own, and it's partly because why is that? I think because honestly, I'm not a very good chatter when you're out running and you see people kind of running along and having a good chat, and I'm thinking, oh my
Mm,
gosh, I can't, I know it says run at a conversational pace, but I'm not sure what kind of conversation it really would be. So I actually find running on my own at the moment is the right thing for me. But I do enjoy running with other people as well, absolutely. But mostly at the moment, I'm just because I'm following this plan, because I'm hoping to do a marathon at the end of September. I'm kind of quite focused on following this plan to get myself into
yeah,
good shape for that.
yeah. Yeah, I think you can have a balance. It's about
Yeah,
sometimes you will, sometimes you won't, sometimes it works. I'm the same.
that's right.
I'm a bit of a lone wolf, do my own
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. We've not spoke about food, nutrition. It's probably one of our
Mm.
favourite topics on the Young Hearts Run Free podcast.
Yes.
How does Helen-Ann fuel herself when she's running?
I have I tend to have I think are they called
Yeah, the Voom bars, yeah.
Voom bars that I kind of have in little because you can break them into little squares, and
Yeah.
actually if I'm doing a longer run you just pop them in a pocket, and you can just every 5K or so have a square or half a square. And the good thing about those is that they're kind of liquidy, they kind of dissolve. So I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't tried a lot of research around gels and running. I've tended to use a bit of electrolyte in my water if I'm going out for a longer run with the Voom bars. But I've just not that long ago got hold of Rennie McGregor's book Fuel for Thought, which is
Mm.
another vertebrate book, and that's got a lot of good detail in it. And actually, she's got some really good stuff online. So I think when as I'm preparing, particularly for the spine sprint, I will be paying a lot of attention
Mm.
to fueling.
Reenie's previous guest, friend of the show, we've had Reenie on before, and she speaks
Right.
a lot of sense, and she says it in such a simple way that it's not
Yeah.
because sometimes nutrition, hydration, that scientific stuff, it gets very
Yeah.
caught up
Yes.
in the big wordy stuff. Reenie
Yeah.
breaks away all that stuff, and she just talks plain English
Yeah.
in a very, very good way. And her books are written. I actually hear Reenie's voice in my head
Uh,
when I read what she's written
yes.
on, whether it be a book or social media. So yeah, big shout out to Reenie. Can't get a lot of names in this one, Helena. I've written Damien Hall's name 3 times.
Have you? I hope he's pleased about that.
He will be. He will be. Um, we've spoke about nutrition. We spoke about shoes. Um, do you have a favourite bit of kit that you use all the time?
Um, this is a bit random, but I recently got I don't know how you pronounce this. It's a cap. Is it Vaga?
Vaga, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's from the Lake
Um,
District, Ellis Bland,
but-
isn't it? Yeah.
and I I've tried running with caps before, but I've always found them like I don't know, I just haven't really settled with it. But I decided to try one of those, and actually really, they're great because they're quite light and they sort of sit flat. And I find that at the moment that's my go-to bit of kit.
Has it got a skip on the front?
Yeah, it
Like a,
does. Yeah, and it can flip up or, so but it's just really handy having it because I think particularly if you're running and it's as it often is in the northeast, well, generally raining, it's like how do you stop? Because I wear glasses and it's like
mm,
it's such a pain when when it rains and you've got no kind of and you don't necessarily want to put a hood up, but I
yeah.
find having the cap is just such a really good it means that you can actually your glasses don't fog up and you don't end up running into a tree or something. Not that I would, but you know what I mean. So that's probably my favorite bit of kit at the moment, actually.
Okay, brilliant. What colour did you go for?
It's a color combo of I think a bit of bright pink, navy blue, a bit of purple. Yeah, so it's quite bright,
Good,
which
good.
appeals to me.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We're rattling through these questions, and actually, I probably asked more questions that weren't on the list.
I
I
like
did
that.
warn you that. I did warn you that might happen.
Mm.
Do you have any? You mentioned this marathon, so we can
Yes.
speak about that.
Yeah.
Do you have any upcoming races or running goals that you're particularly excited
Um,
about?
That's well, probably the marathon actually, if I'm honest with you. I'll do the Great North Run again in early September, September the 7th. So I'll be doing that again. And then a couple of weeks later is when I am planning to do the Loch Ness Marathon. So that's my goal at the moment is to get up to that distance and be comfortable in that space.
Hmm. Don't be fooled by anybody that tells you that it's all downhill.
No,
It's not.
it's not. No.
Uh, have you been on the course before?
Um, well, no, I haven't actually been on the interesting thing. I mean, again, it's like why would you do that one? And so I spent so much of my childhood in that part of Scotland because my mother was born in Drumnadrochit, which is right by Loch Ness. I have an aunt that lives there. Used to go and visit my granny there, so I kind of know that whole area um really well. So I'm under no illusion that it's not all downhill.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that's kind of why I decided to give it a go because it's kind of got a heart reason to it.
because what they bus you up to the top of
Yeah.
a hill to
Oh, is it
start.
oh
Yeah, and everything, it looks a
yeah.
massive downhill to start with. That only lasts about a mile, maybe half a mile. And then
And
the
then
wee, I love the word undulation. It's
undulations, yeah.
such a kind word. But after a few
Yeah.
miles of that, but it's a brilliant event, a
Yeah.
phenomenal event, and it's a great finish. All the crowds come out for that at the finish too. So wish you luck for that. Anything else on the agenda?
Um, just that really at the moment, actually. And I think, now I have an eye on a year's time and the Northern Sprint. So kind of even doing the marathon is a stage on the way for preparing for a much longer distance. So I'll be doing some recceing definitely up in the Cheviots
Brilliant.
in the next while too.
What do you, this again, not on the question set. What about the cows and the bulls?
Oh, yes. Um, well, yeah, that's I'm not unused to that landscape of stuff, but yeah, you've got to be really careful, don't you?
Mm,
I think it's have a plan, always have a plan, always think ahead into what scenarios might you might be faced with. I mean,
yeah.
interestingly, even in urban Newcastle, so where we live in Newcastle is quite near a big green space called the Town Moor, which is a fantastic gift for runners actually, because there's your running track. But between March and November, they always have cows grazing on the Town Moor. Um, so right, even this morning I was out for a run and there were a load of cows. You have to, navigate the paths with lots of cows nearby. So yeah,
Mm.
and that's right in almost in Newcastle city centre, which is quite interesting. Not what you
That's
expect.
that's very handy, providing a bit of familiarisation for
Yeah,
the spine
exactly. Well,
in the town centre. Brilliant. I love
it's
that.
right next to St James's Park, so it's quite a landscape.
St James's. Now that St James's Park, there's another question. No, it's Newcastle. I think I've only been there once in my life. I was down for Alan Shearer's testimonial
Oh, brilliant.
long time ago. But I also know that you went there to see a certain Sam Fender
Oh,
recently.
yes. Yeah,
He's
that
a
was.
big Newcastle fan too, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. I take my husband and I have never been to a stadium gig before, so it was like, oh, this is new. This is a bit different, but it was amazing. And I think it was like, it was the stadium was full of black and white and flags, and it was a bit
Mm.
of a homecoming. And yeah, I'm a bit of a Sam Fender fan. Definitely, he's got some good tunes.
He definitely has. You're saying it's a bit of a homecoming. It's like a home game. They went
Okay,
out
yeah, it totally
Newcastle
was.
strip.
Absolutely was. And I'm saying that, John. Remember, I grew up in Sunderland. This is the real. This is
Oh,
this is this is the thing. Like people say, the Bishop of Newcastle grew up in Sunderland. Really? So it's like, well, I come in peace. So I'm the great bridge builder. That's me.
brilliant. I've Sam Fender. I'm a fan. I went to see Bruce Springsteen playing in Rome.
Oh,
Um,
amazing.
and then when he plays the UK, he doesn't have a support act. He just comes on, does his
Wow.
shift, and just does
Wow.
his thing. But in Europe, he has a support act. The support act in Rome was Sam Fender. I
Oh,
was like,
amazing. Wow.
unbelievable. And
Amazing.
Sam Fender and his band were
Yeah.
absolutely loving it. I think to get a
Yeah.
gig of
Oh,
that magnitude, but they made it their own. They were absolutely fantastic. So
wow. Brilliant.
power to him and power to Bruce Springsteen for giving somebody like that an opportunity, So
Definitely.
brilliant.
Definitely.
I'm going off track a wee bit, Helen-Ann.
We're-
Now, you also mentioned to me, maybe it slipped your mind, about a wee thing that's happening in Ochterarder.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, sorry. Yeah, how could I possibly forget the chili race? Heck, yes, in November.
Stephen's ears have just pricked up when he's
Ah,
listening in.
the
Brilliant.
chili race. Yeah, well, the thing is, I've got a really good friend who I met actually in the world of farming and agriculture, but she's a runner and she's also a chili farmer in Galloway. Sheena
Yeah,
Horner. She's become a really good friend, and I think she often listens to this podcast. And when I heard about the chili race, I was like, oh, Sheena, how about it? Because Sheena's a chili farmer. You've got to do that one. So she and I have signed up to do the chili race, the
awesome.
10K.
So we will see you in person in
You
November
will, you
up in
will.
Ochterarder. I
Oh,
look
you will.
very much forward to that. Okay. Um, I think we're coming towards the end of our question set, Helen-Ann, and we always ask, you've travelled
Mhm.
about a wee bit, so this would be interesting. We
Mhm.
always ask our guests to give us a bit of a local dialect words.
Ah,
Now, it can be from anywhere you've been. You've mentioned about Scotland, you've mentioned Sunderland,
yeah,
you've mentioned Newcastle,
yeah,
Ripon, all these
yeah.
places. What's the one word? Can be a word or a phrase, a favourite of yours that's a wee bit unusual.
Oh, well, do you know, I think, look, it's a word that I use quite a lot, and it's the Geordie word, reet,
I've eat.
reet. And my understand, I mean, it's like, all right, okay, that's what
Uh-huh.
it kind of in other lingo. But in my mind, use it as a sort of reset, I think it's like a Geordie be bothered.
Mm,
In my mind. So when I say to somebody, I eat, or I say to myself, if I'm out, I eat, just be bothered, just go, commit, do it. It's all right. So I'm going to go with I eat. Of course, you
awesome.
can say I eat pet if you want to add an endearment on the end, an
Yeah,
encouragement. But I think that's like a Geordie, be bothered.
brilliant. Thank you. It's not in the dialect dictionary yet. It is now.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank
Excellent.
you. And then the final question is a musical one. It can be anything that you like. It can be a song to do with running. It can be a song that brings you joy in any part of your life. But we're currently on playlist the Buff Buff Collection Volume 10, I think. Um, we do that because we only started them in season 3, so that you never used
Oh,
to have
right.
them. So,
Brilliant.
um, what song or track would Helen-Ann like to add in for the Young Hearts Run Free listeners?
So this song that I'm going to put on, and I'll explain the little story around it, is by an American band called Fish. and it's a song called Blaze On. And the story behind it is it's a Keith Dunn connection, actually, because Keith sort of, one of the things he said to me after the Barkleys was, oh, you know, you need to be prepared that a lot of my social media feed now is going to be about this band Fish, because he's a big Fish fan. And I'd never heard of Fish. And I was like, all right then, sure. So I kind of listened to some of their music and I thought, oh, this is quite good, this. And they're known for like a blend of a variety of musical styles, and they're also known for kind of really long extended jam sessions. So they kind of have an ultra running feel to them in terms of, you know, blend of terrain, goes on for a long time. But there's a particular song, and that is the song Blaze On, that I'm going to add to the playlist.
Well, you know what? As soon as you said Fish, I knew it was a Keith Dunn reference, because
definitely
the only other Fish that I'd heard of, and that's spelt with an F,
yes,
is Fish from Marillion, who had the song Kaylee is the big hit from them.
Excellent.
But this Fish is with a PH, isn't it?
This is a PH. And Blaze On is, it's basically like, I think it's just you got one life, blaze on, and it's just a kind of a positive, uplifting song.
I've never heard it, and this is one of the beauties of us doing this, pick a song for the playlist, because it opens up musical doors that people will find. So Fish, Blaze On will be added to the playlist, and our listeners can go in and enjoy that and tweet Keith Dunn about it. It's either Fish or photographs of cats. That's what he does when he's not doing the Barkley thing.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, brilliant.
Kitty content, I think he calls it.
Yes. Helen-Ann, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. I said earlier, you've got a great way with words, very articulate. You paint a picture and tell a brilliant story. And I love your story, so thank you very much for sharing it.
Thank you, John.
Cannot wait to meet you in person in November at the Chile. But before that, best of luck in the Great North Run and the Loch Ness Marathon. We'll be keeping an eye out.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll speak to you again after the summer spine stuff next year. It'd be lovely. Let's leave that door open for you to come back and have a future chat. But for now, Helen-Ann, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you.